We have at least 5 executive orders this year from President Trump that mention the word efficiency. But that's a lie. We've been told the government hasn't been efficient. That's the reason we needed such drastic and sudden change. That's why we were breaking things and trying to fix them again, because we haven't been efficient. But if you witnessed what has happened in the federal government since January of this year, you would notice nothing is happening efficiently. Take, for example, the renaming of the Department of Defense back to its old name, Department of War. Why are we doing that? Not only are we doing that, we're prepared to spend hundreds of millions of dollars on messaging. That's what it comes down to. It's messaging, right? Because Department of Defense, that's too passive. You're on your back foot. That feeds into the woke ideology, allegedly. You know when the Department of War changed to the Department of Defense? It was in 1949. Are those not the good old days by some people's recollection? 1949, is that woke? Did we do something that was woke in the 40s? Supposedly. In order to make this change, you're going to have to switch up building signs. You're going to have to switch up websites, legal contracts. There's uniforms, right? There's a lot of things that are going to have to change. We've seen it when they changed military base names. And I wasn't for that either. I understand some of the military bases were named after Confederate generals and officers like Bragg. I don't have an issue with that, okay? I just don't think it's a good use of taxpayer money. It costs millions to change names at military bases. It's going to cost way more than that to do it across the Department of Defense. Is there not a better way to spend that money? Do you have a rundown bridge in your town that perhaps that money could go to? Do you think maybe we should give teachers a raise in a nearby school, perhaps, in your district? I'm sure we can think of better ways to spend money than just focusing on messaging. The entire department would still function the same. It would just be a different name. It doesn't make that much sense. And then look at the mass firing that we did in the federal government. So the Trump administration decided to spend billions of dollars to put people on administrative leave. Over 100,000 federal workers, because they couldn't fire them quickly, they put them on administrative leave for months, up to 7 months in some situations. Now, some people are saying, well, yeah, they paid that money, but it was a good use of money because those people are gone. It's going to save so much. How long do you think they're gone for? Do you think this is going to be a lasting change, or is it something when a new administration comes in, they rebalance the government and they hire those positions back? Because if that happens, did you really save anything? This is yet another example of scapegoating the federal workforce. And it's not about the federal government being too big. It's really not. Because when Donald Trump was learning how to crawl as a baby, the federal workforce was much larger than it was at the start of 2025. No, this is about messaging. Once again, this is about having an enemy. You need an enemy in politics. You have to have it. You have to rally the troops. Get people energized. Otherwise, they're not going to vote for you. You want people to vote for you? Energize your base. How? Have a clearly defined enemy that we can point to and say, you're the reason. You're the reason I'm not getting what I want out of life. You are the barrier. You're a parasite. You know, that type of messaging, it resonates. It gets people to the polling booths so that they can actually vote. Also, we had the firing and rehiring. How much sense does that make? This is not just in 1 or 2 or 3 agencies. These a lot of agencies. Firing people that you shouldn't have fired, and then you rehire them. How much time, energy, attention, effort, money was wasted doing that hundreds of times, possibly thousands of times. And you know what the real repercussion is of taking action like that? It's those individuals, they have lost trust and confidence in the leadership of that agency because planning wasn't done. The leadership wasn't present. So do you not think they're going to take the next best opportunity that comes their way? Do you not think that the attrition rate will spike? Probably. Towards the end of 2025, into 2026, those same people that you jerked around, they're going to be looking for the exit door. Now, here's another one. The beautification, right? There's a new action coming out there from the Trump administration saying that If you're renovating a federal building or expanding a federal building and it's over $50 million, you have to go through GSA. There's another layer of bureaucracy. Does that sound efficient? Why? To make sure the buildings are classical or traditional. Because they're done with that. They're done with the modernists. They're done with the Brutus type style. They don't like that. They want it to be classical. So in order to ensure that, you have to go through GSA. And if it doesn't meet that requirement, GSA has to notify the President of the United States. And then potentially you're going to need to get some sort of waiver. So it creates another layer of oversight, another layer of paperwork, which is completely, like everything else that I mentioned, it's not efficient. Then you can look at the National Guard. If you're in the DC area, you've probably seen them pushing a broom, raking up things, picking up trash. These are soldiers. A lot of people call them war fighters, even though they belong to the state. Now, the National Guard's primary responsibility is to answer to the governor and to be prepared for any type of emergency, any type of natural disaster that might occur. So wouldn't a better use of their time be preparing for a tornado, a hurricane, a flood, maybe a potential deployment? When I was in Iraq, we had a lot of National Guard and reserve units. They never thought they would be deployed. They joined under the condition of 1 week in a month. That's what they thought. 1 week in a month, get some college paid for, check the block, not a problem, sign me up. But that's not what happened. They ended up going to Iraq. Not all of them were well trained. Some of them were trying to figure it out as they go, and I don't blame them at all. But these individuals can be called on a moment's notice if a war breaks out. Do you want them pushing a broom in Washington, D.C. to beautify the area? Do you want them picking up the trash? Now, I know active duty soldiers on military bases, they do that, but there's a cycle. There's a cycle, hey, you're red cycle, so you have to clean up the military base. But one thing is a military base, another is the District of Columbia, right? And probably the next step would be Chicago. Do you want National Guard cleaning up Chicago? When does it end? Are we using them in the most effective way? Are we using them efficiently? So this whole idea of making things more efficient, making the government more efficient, it's simply not true. It's wasting money in the ways that you want to waste money. And I'm not saying this is just the Republicans. I'm not saying this is just the Trump administration. The Democrats do it as well, right? Everybody wants to waste money the way they want to waste money, but you're still wasting the money. Now, most Americans, they don't want the money to be wasted. So the Trump administration, what they have shown is, hey, we canceled some NGO contracts. We dissolved some offices. We got rid of the DEI offices. So they're hoping that's enough to keep the base loyal to them so that they'll be loyal election after election. Now, if you don't like the way things are going, the best thing that you could do is vote. You have midterms coming up next year, 2026 in the fall, pretty much almost 12 months away. So get informed, see what the congressional representatives in your district, what is their platform? What are they for? So if you want change, you need to take action in order to make that change a reality. A lot of people feel like their vote doesn't matter, and that's the worst mindset to have. Now, in addition to all of this, we have some completely garbage jobs right now on usajobs.gov. Now, I understand low-paying jobs, but the low-paying jobs that we're seeing right now, it's over 50%. It's really up there. More so than a typical month, a typical year. Now, maybe when the hiring freeze is lifted, we'll see some actually decent paying jobs, but for the time being, there's a lot of trash out there. So if you want to know exactly what I'm talking about, check this video out next. Stay updated by signing up to the newsletter down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.